Hi there, I'm Tom Field. I'm Senior Vice President of Editorial with Information Security Media Group, talking in ISMG studio today about SASE and Zero Trust. Joining me for this discussion are Anupam Upadhyaya. He's Vice President Product Management with Palo Alto Networks, and he's joined by Arnab, Bose, Chief Product Officer with Okta. Gentlemen, glad to have you both here. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Tom, it's great to be here.
We've done a lot of these virtually. It's good to be in person for a change. Okay, it's been about 5 years now since the pandemic, and when enterprises really seriously invested both in SASE and in Zero Trust. How would you two describe the state of these two security frameworks as we sit here in 2025?
Yeah. Tom, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Great question, Tom. In my mind, Zero Trust has been around for some time. It's a cybersecurity framework saying that when you think about users, devices, and applications, there should be no trust. There is no implicit trust. Trust has to be gained, and trust has to be explicit. And that is what creates a groundwork for Zero Trust. And SASE is just one more tool set when you think about Zero Trust for enterprises. SASE is a cloud-delivered security services protecting users and applications. And when you get to the core of it, what is SASE? SASE is continuous inspection for security and continuous trust validation. And this is where Tom and Arnab, I think, when you think about Okta and Palo Alto coming together, it's a great opportunity.
Sure.
With Okta's ITP, you get the best-in-class identity security, continuous identity validation, and also access. And when you couple that with security from Palo Alto, you get the best-of-breed framework for SASE and Zero Trust.
I think Arnab agrees with you.
Totally. I'll just add a bit to what Anupam was saying. I agree with him that the awareness of Zero Trust and SASE has kind of increased year over year, and Zero Trust has been around as a framework for almost a decade now. So almost everybody knows what it is in the industry. The challenges they've faced over the years is actually deploying it correctly for the kinds of end users, devices, and network conditions they have to deal with. And this is where SASE and identity play hand in hand to help our customers secure themselves, because it gives them the way to go ahead and deploy those Zero Trust principles in practice fast. Okta, for example, uses Palo Alto Networks internally. Like, we are a Palo Alto customer. And so the very first step we do when we are validating that an end user should have access to the resource that they're accessing is integrating the end user's identity and their device with the Palo Alto network security solution from a networking perspective. And all of our SaaS products are behind that networking gateway. That combination is something that we've been able to roll out, and we want to ensure that all customers worldwide have the ability to actually finally deliver on that Zero Trust principle in practice.
So talk to me about today's top drivers for Zero Trust platforms. What do you see?
Yeah, Tom, Zero Trust started getting fueled by the pandemic, right? Which is it's about 5 years out, right? Yes. 5 years back, not out. And it really started with this whole concept of working from anywhere, right? Users could be in the office, at home, in a coffee shop, in a campus.
Hasn't changed much.
Yeah, it has become perimeterless, right? And when you think about applications that were sort of sitting in data center, so you had these defined boundaries. You had people sitting in a branch or campus, accessing applications in the data center. Everything is within a perimeter, and you can write nice security constructs. And all that sort of just went out the window, with applications being anywhere and users being anywhere, right? And that has really fueled this entire need from CIOs for Zero Trust. How do I securely connect my users to applications while embarking on digitization and without really having an impact on productivity? Mm-hmm. And the other key thing I think that we are seeing, and we see this in partnership with Okta, is identity is actually becoming one of the most targeted vectors for hackers to come in. Because if you take control of identity, you actually have keys to the kingdom. Yeah. Remember, it's very hard to go and attack a user-to-app connection if it's not trusted. But if you have identity, you get that trust. And this is where you're really seeing that velocity happening, where when CIOs and CISOs think about digitization, working from anywhere, and identity, there's this need for zero trust and SASE.
All right, what would you add to that?
Yeah, so just piggybacking on Anupam, right? So what has fueled this growth and this focus? It's been driven by working from anywhere, working from any device. People are bring your own devices from their phones. They want to read their email. They want to connect to Zoom meetings. They want to get on Slack, whatnot. You also have a very diverse workforce in the sense that what we've been seeing on the Okta side is customers are not only bringing on full-time employees who might be remote and working from anywhere to work on projects, but there's also business partners, temporary workers, contractors, frontline workers. So the kinds of people who need access to your backend resources and from locations, network profiles, devices, they've become much, much more complicated than they were even 5 years ago. And then there's a question of like, okay, what are we doing as the industry to go ahead and help our customers secure this environment? In partnership with Palo Alto, we've been building out all of these solutions that help you onboard users securely, help you connect from any device securely, so on and so forth. A specific example I'll provide that is an identity-centric attack that we are seeing is the North Korean government has been running a sustained campaign where they have been creating these fake IT worker profiles, right? And there's been wide-ranging news coverage on this. And what these fake IT workers do is they apply for remote jobs. Once they get hired, they're remotely onboarded and they can continue working in that capacity. So that is an interesting example of an identity exploit where if you are not able to do real-time identity verification of a new employee who's being onboarded, be able to do liveness checks or deep fake checks, you're at risk of allowing one of these North Korean agents to become a member of your organization. And at that point in time, they would have gained trust and they would gain access to resources. So this is a really interesting space where identity and network security or Palo Alto's full security stack can intersect, where we provide the tooling to be able to integrate your employee onboarding processes with any number of identity verification vendors out there so you can close that gap. So that's a really interesting example of like how the changes in the diversity of the workforce, where they're working from, the flexibility that you need to run your business has a direct impact on your security strategy.
That's no secret. A lot of organizations have struggled just to understand zero trust, and they've struggled with implementation, understanding what they want to protect. How are...
Actually, Tom, Arnab made a great point, and
Okay.
I want to piggyback on that, right? It just triggered a thought process in my head, right? Arnab, you talked about the North Korean fiasco where they tried to impersonate identity. And Arnab also talked about devices, right? We want to allow our employees, contractors, or even temporary agencies coming in to have access. And that's creating a new problem, right? You have to extend the zero trust framework to bring your own devices, to untrusted devices, or devices that you don't want to manage, while you want to make sure that you give your employees, contractors, and third-party agencies the flexibility of accessing applications. And this is where I think Prisma Access Browser extends, which is a secure browser, secure enterprise browser,
Right.
extends that SASE framework to unmanaged devices as well. And it doesn't just stop there, it also gives you that last mile data security and DLP controls to make sure that even if access gets compromised, your data does not.
So talk to me about Palo Alto Networks and Okta, how you're coming together to help your joint customers overcome these zero trust implementation challenges.
And Tom, this is, it's really what Arnab and I have been talking about, right? If you think about the attack, the vectors where people are seeing challenges in the zero trust framework is unmanaged devices, identity compromise, so man-in-the-middle attacks, or attacks happening in the web, right? Where there is a new class of attacks happening, Tom, where you see malware being assembled in the browser over multiple packets, right? And these are creating new sets of challenges for customers. And this is where, when you think about Okta and Palo Alto coming together, Okta gives us the right signals from an identity standpoint, from a behavioral standpoint, understanding if the user is who they say they are. And on top of that, the conditional access from Okta helps us understand the user profile better. And on top of that, once you bring in the device signals, and the app signal, you get a better understanding of trust. Can I really trust this device, this user, and the application that they're trying to access? Once you have that framework, then you can apply the continuous security framework from Palo Alto to provide the right malware protection, URL filtering, DNS security, CASB, and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in and say, from our perspective, security is a team sport. Like, we secure identities. Palo Alto Networks provides security for the rest of the stack, from a SASE, networking, endpoint protection, that full gamut. These things have to be integrated in order for our shared customers to be successful. Anupam talked a bit about the Prisma Access Browser. We have built an integration with the Prisma Access Browser so you can identify yourself even if you're a contractor or a business partner coming from an unmanaged or personal device and logging in via the Prisma Access Browser. That way, Prisma Access Browser understands you are who you say you are, and then can apply the appropriate policies to secure the rest of the journey. Going back to like the shared signals, talking points that Anupam shared, we've been partnering on sharing risk signals between Okta and Palo Alto networks using an open standard called Shared Signals Framework. Right. This is the foundation on which Okta's identity threat protection product is built. So we can ingest signals from Palo Alto today. That allows us to then go ahead and recalculate identity security risk for that end user and share it back out with the ecosystem, or take an action called universal logout. There's single sign-on, and now there's a new action called universal logout against the most common SaaS applications of this era, like Google Workspace, Slack, Salesforce, et cetera. So this means you can have a comprehensive perspective on security, which is a combination of the full like security stack from Palo Alto as well as the identity stack.
Arnab, a huge challenge for organizations these days is the rise of machine identities. How is this reinforcing the need for zero trust?
So from a machine identity perspective, the place where we're seeing the maximum amount of growth in identity complexity and silos, as well as new security threats, is fueled by a category of machine identity called non-human identity, right, which is focused on service-to-service integrations between cloud applications. So as customers are evaluating their AI strategies, one of the things that any AI product needs is to be able to be connected to resources for data or resources for action. And these things tend to be back-end connections either via OAuth, service accounts, API tokens. These constructs have existed for a very long time, but the growth in them has been massive over the last couple of years. And this is a place where there is a lot of lack of observability, lack of visibility, lack of control. So I think this is a space where, as a security industry, we need to band together and figure out how do we help customers protect these very valuable resources. These are identities where things like lifecycle management, MFA, offboarding are very, very difficult to get right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anupam, anything you care to add to that?
I think Arnab pretty much summed it up, right? If you think, and this is where I think getting the identity signals and the risk signals and the ability to offboard the identity, human or non-human, from the network, those signals when we get from Okta into Palo, that just makes our solution much more compelling because we have the right signal, we have the right framework, we apply the right security signals, and as Arnab said, that bi-directional signal sharing allows us to make it a more robust security solution even for non-human identities.
Excellent. Gentlemen, we are at RSAC Conference 2025. What are your organizations talking about when it comes to zero trust?
Yeah. Today morning, we launched our SASE announcements for RSA. It was led by Prisma Access Browser 2.0.
Yeah.
And there were really some key innovations that we did in Prisma Access Browser. One is, we sort of touched upon AI, right? AI is becoming a cornerstone. Everyone wants to access AI.
Absolutely.
How do you securely access AI applications? And most of these AI applications are actually being consumed in the browser.
Yes, they are.
So how do you make sure you have the right visibility, the right control, the right security, and more importantly, making sure that your data is not compromised when you are interacting with these AI applications is the first part. Bringing AI access, security, and Prisma Access Browser together, that's the first part. The second part is, because in the browser, we see everything. Even that traffic that is hard to decrypt because of network or business reasons, we can see that traffic and apply the cloud-delivered security services that are common across all our stack and give you better, superior web protection. And Tom, remember, I talked about these web attacks where malware gets assembled in the browser. It's very easy because browser has the entire context. It sees that malware.
That's right.
It interacts with the cloud-delivered security services and provides the right protection. So that becomes the second cornerstone. And the third is, in this era of digitization, right? As users and admins are looking to get away from the clunky VDI infrastructure, Prisma Access Browser provides that superior application experience, whether you're interacting with web, internet, or even if you want to go and interact with the DAS service, right? So that becomes PAB 2.0, Prisma Access Browser 2.0. But we did not just stop there. There were other innovations that also happened. We extended our cloud presence to Oracle Cloud. We also provided support for branch security and application acceleration for dynamic applications on our SD-WAN branch. And last but not the least, we have been talking about data. We introduced support for large language model-based classification for shadow data and extended our AI apps catalog to more than 2,000 applications.
Lots to talk about then.
Yep.
Arnab, what do you care to add to that?
From an Okta perspective, we are the world's identity company. We secure identities before, during, and after authentication, and it's a construct we call the Identity Security Fabric. At RSA 2025, our focus is extending that Identity Security Fabric to AI applications, so you can go ahead and secure your non-human identities before, during, and after authentication. So we've got a product called Identity Security Posture Management that is helping you uncover over-permissioned service tokens, unrotated admin passwords, et cetera, across all of your major cloud applications, whether it's AWS, Azure, et cetera, or your IDPs. And then we have an Okta Privileged Access product that helps you go ahead and vault, rotate, and actually secure those credentials and tokens going forward. So our focus this year at RSA is really honing in on the massive rise of AI and the massive growth in non-human identities and bringing that identity security fabric to these non-human identities.
Excellent. Terrific things to discuss. I appreciate your time. Arnab, Anupam, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Again, for Information Security Media Group, I'm Tom Field. Thank you so much for giving us your time and attention today.